Right side, the 10 to the 5, touchdown! 6, going to the hoop, puts it up, puts it in! A fantastic play.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Magnolia Fields podcast from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios. I'm Tanner Marlar, alongside, as always, Cody Blaszczak. We are neck deep into divisional play now, Cody. The second season has begun, and we do it every week. Our Week 6 reactions, jumping straight in. Amory and Tishomingo County.
I think your favorite. Tanner, let's see a facial, just a reaction. There it is. There it is. He knew it was coming once district play happened, and I don't think there's any coming back from that one. Nonetheless, Tish drops their first game of the season. They are now sitting at 5-1. Started with a 5-game win streak, and boy, oh boy, it wasn't a close game against Amory. They got sent home losing by 30.
Let's just throw this out there. This was a dog walk. 51 to 20. They got 51 put on. 51, no 40s, straight into half of 100 points.
Do you want to hear something that'll make you feel even better?
Sure.
Obviously, Tish County scored 21 in that game.
They did.
Amory scored 23 in quarter number 2. So not a great week for the Braves.
Not great. Not great, Cody. Not great.
Fortunately, we're not done talking about them.
No.
This is our reaction. We're going to talk about them in the last segment because y'all have been asking for it. We're finally going to do it. Tanner was scared, though, so he'll be out of town.
Oh,
we'll talk.
Okay. I have a concert to go to.
We'll talk about that in the final segment,
We
though.
will.
But if you want to hear more about Tish County,
Stick around.
Stick around.
Stick around. But as you said, Amory takes that one 51 to 21. Sticking with 4A and a team that I've been pretty high on all season that continues to just win games. New Albany over Senatobia, 25-19. In this game, New Albany forced 3 fumbles, recovered one of them for a 65-yard touchdown. And truthfully, you look at the score, that's the difference in the ball game.
yeah, I mean, turnovers are big, but when you can score on a turnover, that's even bigger. And I mean, golly, we've talked about him in basketball, we've talked about him in football, but he just continues to impress. Braden Shettles has really been something special this year.
Yeah, and you know, you look at the numbers and you stack it up against other quarterbacks in the state, and they're not just eye-popping. But you look at how that coincides with the team's record, and the leader of the team is putting games in the right column. They put another one in the right column, 25-19. I really think this New Albany team has got what it takes to make a deeper run and go challenge somebody like a Louisville, like a Houston, deeper in the playoffs. Do I think they're going to win the state title? No, not really. But I think they could really open some eyes and do some impressive things in the postseason, and that looks to be where they're headed.
Team you're rooting for.
Team I'm rooting for.
It's been fun to watch them perform this season, and it's Braden Shettles is something. I hope we can see him some point this
I do too.
season.
Parker and I were talking earlier last Friday about trying to get to one of their maybe postseason matchups, something like that, a round 1, a round 2 game, because you look at 7, 6, and 5A around the state, and especially around our coverage area, you kind of get a sense of how round 1 is going to go. And you look at 4A and you look around. And again, and I've said this on earlier episodes, I think 4A may be the most competitive division in all of Mississippi high school football. I think, obviously, 7A is great. That's where some of the best athletes are. 3A is really tight, but I think it's a little more top-heavy. As far as 4A, you know, yes, Louisville's there, but they've been proven to not be as bulletproof. And I think that some really good 4A team could give them a run this year and potentially snap that state championship streak.
Yeah, it's it almost feels like a down year for the powerhouses of Mississippi high school football. I mean, you look at the Starkvilles and the Louisvilles, it just feels like a little bit of a down year for them. Still playing well, just not to the standard that they have set in years past.
I'd agree. A little more in the Week 6 reactions. Grenada, they're 5-1 on the year, Cody, and let me tell you something. I think Caleb Taylor, and you said it before we went on, might be the Ashton Jeanty of Mississippi high school football.
I mean, this is insane to look at these numbers. I mean, over 1,200 rushing yards on the season and 22 touchdowns. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he is averaging over 3 touchdowns a game.
We still got a lot of football to go, too. I mean, just like Ashton Jeanty with Boise State, they got a lot of football left, and he's already put up ridiculous numbers. Caleb Taylor's already put up ridiculous numbers for Grenada. And the thing with Grenada, and I was actually talking to Robbie Falk about this yesterday. We were both at the Mississippi State media availability. Grenada has always had players. The question has always been, can they put it together? I remember maybe a few years ago where they had like 2 or 3 SEC caliber players on that team, and I think they missed the playoffs. Like, they just haven't been able to put that talent together. And so far this season, they've been able to do that at 5-1.
Can they continue to do it? That's the question.
That is the big question.
Get into district play. Like we said, those wins early in the season, non-district, they're good, but they really don't matter when it comes down to everything.
They don't. On into our Game of the Week reaction. We were live from Choctaw County for this matchup. The Chargers of Choctaw County take it to the East Webster Wolverines 49-21 in that game. Cooper Stidham, 11 for 23, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And even that stat line, I think, is a little bit misleading. Yeah,
I would have to agree. One of those touchdowns in the air, one on the ground. At half, they had a freshman come in and Cross Avent, who at half I think was 3 for 4 and had 35 yards. And he finished the game 3 for 6, didn't get a whole lot of playing time. But at that time, he had more passing yards than Cooper Stidham did.
Yeah.
And you see 125 passing yards. A lot of that was in garbage time in the fourth quarter.
It was. And you look at Avent and you think about the pedigree that's there. Older brother plays baseball at Mississippi State. He's got a lot. I mean, Avent has a live arm. I was watching them in pregame warmups, and they've got both quarterbacks throwing in Stidham and Avent, and it was pretty clear to me that Avent threw a better football. There was a lot more zip on the ball. It was a lot tighter spiral. Yeah, he kind of throws it like a baseball, almost a little bit of sidearm action, but he throws a fantastic football, and he came in with zero fear. And that's what you want to see out of a freshman. He stood in the pocket. He moved around the pocket, evading tacklers, and delivered some ropes. I mean, some frozen ropes over the middle. I think East Webster has got themselves a quarterback for the future in Cross Avent. The question is, do you let him get run in now, or do you roll with the veteran and Stidham for the rest of the year?
And maybe next season, too. Stidham only a junior.
Yeah.
So when is enough? When do you put, like you said, Avent was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Kid could throw the ball, and I mean,
he looks like a freshman.
Well, he was able to fit it into some pretty tight windows, too. I mean, the 3 completions we saw, we both kind of looked at each other and was like, did a freshman really just make that throw and get it through that window? And like you said, a quarterback for the future, the question is, when is it his time?
The question is, when is the future, I think.
Yeah.
So for Avent, that'll be an interesting storyline to follow through as they get into divisional play. But Choctaw County and Caleb Cunningham, as good as promised. Oh, my goodness. Tell me, and look, we watched another really good 3A team the week before. And captained by Camario Taylor, he made pretty much nearly all the plays for that team. For Choctaw County, I thought they had 3 or 4 playmakers, guys that can just go. Caleb Cunningham, obviously, the quarterback, KJ Court, and then the running back in Miller. I think the 3 of those guys are as good of a trio in MHSAA, and they're in 3A.
And they're fun to watch.
They are.
KJ Cork, a little wild with the throws.
A little wild at times.
Had some issues with just throwing it. I get it, though. You think you can just throw it up, and when you have a guy like Caleb Cunningham, I understand throwing it up, see if he can go up and get it. But sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's what forced him to have a couple of interceptions that night.
Yeah.
So maybe in the future, don't rely on him as much, especially considering the fact that this is his last year in high school. But otherwise, when he's not just hoping that Caleb Cunningham is going to come down with some wild ball, he looked really solid.
And I think Cork is more dangerous than anything with his legs. And I think as good as Caleb Cunningham is, I think the Choctaw County run game may be more dangerous in the pass game, because you look at the guys they've got up front, and I looked at those senior offensive linemen who at times looked a little outsized up front against East Webster. They play to win, and they play hard. There were offensive linemen blocking guys to the sideline, to the end zone, through the end zone. I think the most impressive unit for this Choctaw County squad that I saw last week is the offensive line.
And I think that is what makes this Choctaw County team so dangerous, is not only the line, but it does open the run game up. And when you open the run game up, guess who you can throw the ball to? And when that's working, you go right back to the ground, and it's hard to stop. I think that's what makes the Chargers so dangerous.
Yeah, they had a couple read option plays in there that I just, like, how do you defend? How do you defend? Because Cork is quick.
Yeah.
Cork is quick when he gets out of the pocket and moves. Miller runs hard. And then even if you wanted to mix in some RPO, if you're Choctaw County, you got a guy like Caleb Cunningham, a big body wide receiver who can catch balls over the middle, go up and make plays. You've got, I think, a very, very dangerous trio that can take you all the way to a state championship if you ride them the correct way.
Almost had one of the most insane catches of the season that we've seen so far, too. That one-handed grab on the sideline, if he would have caught that,
I'd have lost my mind.
We've had a lot of plays that could be number one this season. That might have topped it.
That might have. We're going to take a short break because Miss Volleyball just dropped, and we're going to get into that here in a moment, and some playoff volleyball before talking about our game of the week in the last segment. We'll be back right after these messages here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Magnolia Field Studios. One call, that's all.
Back here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios, Tanner Marlar alongside Cody Blaszczak. If you're just joining us, we just went over our Week 6 reactions to the MHSAA season. Go back and rewind a little bit to listen to those. But now let's get into some volleyball. And we're going to go in order here. A quick reminder, we're only going to be covering the players that won Miss Volleyball that are in our coverage area, which to our great fortune, there are plenty. And if you're
over
wondering,
half.
Yeah, and if you're wondering what our coverage area is, it's over there. It's on a map. Well, you can look at that at some point. But starting with 1A, Miley Switcher in Pine Grove. They've led Pine Grove. She has led Pine Grove in sweeps of Myrtle and Wheeler so far in the playoffs. And that's right, folks. We are already in round 2. The next time you hear this, we'll be talking about real state championship matchups for MHSAA volleyball.
I mean, it's coming, and it's coming quick. And like you said, Switcher kind of – what's crazy to me is she is a sophomore.
Yeah.
And she's a Miss Mississippi Volleyball, which is insane to me, at least as a sophomore. But, I mean, has already surpassed 1,000 career assists.
Yeah.
As a sophomore. So your teammates
are doing a lot there, but it's also on the setup lady.
Yeah. To me, 2,000 is very much in the picture for a career, if not more.
100%.
And even crazier, she had 406 assists this season, which means she had over 500 last year. So, I mean, she's got herself a lot of volleyball ahead of her, but already off to a great start.
Yeah, and could get close to that 500 mark again, depending on how these postseason matchups go.
And I don't know if 406 assists is more crazier or 62 aces.
Yeah, that's another thing is she is dangerous.
I mean,
on the serve. Dangerous. Pine Grove, a women's sports powerhouse in 1A. You look at the basketball resume, it's there. You look at the volleyball resume, it's there. Just a really fun group to watch.
to 2A.
You knew it was coming.
I think.
Is this a shocker to anybody?
Well, I think it is the Miss Volleyball.
I think you're right. Macy Pfeiffer wins 2A, Miss Volleyball for Ingomar. She leads the team with 5.1 kills per set, which is an insane statistic, has 510 kills on the season through Tuesday. And Cody, this begs the question, is Macy Pfeiffer the most decorated women's athlete in Mississippi history? Because think about this. Multiple titles in volleyball, multiple titles in basketball. Last season for softball, just for fun, she has 20 home runs, okay? Miss Volleyball 2 years running, the Gatorade Player of the Year last season. Is there a more decorated athlete in Mississippi high school's women's sports history?
If she isn't now, by the time basketball and softball are over, I would have to bet she will be.
If she plays softball.
Yeah.
And
she's
by the way,
playing basketball, but yeah.
By the way, she played golf this year just for fun. She's advanced to the state tournament.
Can do it all.
Just a natural athlete.
You talked about the 5.1 kills per set, Tanner, and it kind of got me thinking because I had to call some volleyball games for Mississippi State this week.
Yeah.
And they faced two of the best attackers in the nation. One for LSU and Journey Robinson, and the second for Tennessee and Nina Chiach. Journey Robinson is the number 2 attacker in the nation who is averaging 5.1 kills per set.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Macy Pfeiffer is average.
And I understand one's college and one's high school, but still. And then Nina Chiach,
from a number standpoint.
Yeah,
oh, my goodness.
Nina Chiach, who is number 7, is at 4.69. But still, I mean, if she wanted to play college volleyball, she very much could.
She very well could. Has signed to play basketball at Middle Tennessee State. Don't worry, we will get to Macy Pfeiffer come basketball season and her little sister and the rest of that Ingomar team. Because, again, I cannot reiterate this enough. It's not like this team is just Macy Pfeiffer and then there's everyone else. That whole team is some killers.
Macy Pfeiffer just helps a lot.
She helps a lot. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, Tanner, we've seen her a handful of times in volleyball or in basketball the past couple of years, and we only see her for about a half.
Yeah, because they're usually up at half so much.
Yes, because she's got about 20, and it's really out of reach by then.
At that point, yeah. On into 4A and Newton County. Adeline Vaughn, second most kills in 4A with 321 so far this year. The team has dropped an insane 13 out of 89 sets played this season. Yep. They just win.
Which is what you need, especially when you're chasing a 4A title. Newton County trying to go back-to-back in 4A, and by the helps of Adeline Vaughn, it might very well happen.
Certainly could. And as state tournament rolls around, we'll get to talk about them a lot more. Over into 5A, and the last from our coverage area, Mabry Eason for Lafayette County wins Miss Volleyball for 5A. They swept Cleveland Central in the first round, and they're moving on as well.
Yeah, this is a team who didn't have a great overall record, but what Eason was able to do was put them at 8-0 in district
division play. And that's the season that matters, is how you do in division. That's what matters. And I think if you look at Lafayette's schedule, they played a pretty tough non-divisional schedule. So you can kind of see some of those losses. And even in those losses, Eason did more than hold her own. You could obviously tell that she was the girl when it came to this Lafayette team, and rightfully so, because she's 5A's Miss Volleyball.
And Tanner, what's really crazy to me, at least, is all of these 4 players that we have gone over. All 4 of them are trying to go back-to-back state titles. Yeah. All of them won it last year, which just tells you how big of a role they play for their team.
Yeah, I'm excited. And, Cody, we're actually going to get to watch a little bit of volleyball tomorrow.
We do.
We got some playoff volleyball here on the Max South Sports Network. We're going to be on the
headed
call.
your way.
Yeah,
We are.
Boonville. We're headed to Boonville for Kossuth at Boonville. Kossuth, I believe, just beat Alcorn Central earlier this week, and now they're taking on the Blue Devils. We've seen Boonville so far this year. We haven't gotten to see Kossuth at all. We got a big 3A playoff matchup, and we are excited.
Playoffs are the best time of the year. Don't care what sport it is. Best time of the year.
Packed out gyms. Fans are hyped. The girls are hyped. I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Also, one of the best facilities in 3A, Boonville's gym, is fantastic. Cannot wait. Cannot wait to hit the road tomorrow.
It's going to be fun.
It is.
It's been a while since you and I have had some volleyball, but we get the playoffs starting tomorrow. We're here for a good one.
I'm ready. I'm ready. And I hope you guys are ready for the last segment of our show. Which
I know
we'll
you're ready.
Oh, I'm so ready. We'll get to it here in just a moment. Right after this break, stick with us here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios in the Magnolia Fields podcast.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back to the Magnolia Field Studios, brought to you by Richard Schwartz and Associates. One call, that's all.
We welcome you back to the Richard Schwartz and Associates studio here on the Magnolia Fields podcast for our final segment. And it might be, if we want to take a look at Tanner real quick, it might be our favorite segment, or at least his favorite segment this entire season, this entire podcast, as we're going to take a look at Tisch County and Ripley.
Yes. Yes.
Tisch County 5-1, their first loss. Let's see that face one more time real quick. Just there it is. This is how he feels about this game.
And unfortunately, we had to pick this week because this is the 1 week of football season I will not be available. And it's sad. I'm sad.
Tisch County fans, what does that tell you?
I'm going to be at a Sturgill Simpson concert on Friday night, checking my phone for the updates on this game.
I think someone got a little scared.
I've had this booked since the summer. I have had this date marked off since the summer.
Well, friends, I know you were probably looking forward to giving Tanner all you could come Friday, but he will not be there, but we will. The Max South Sports Network will be there for the Tisch County Ripley Tigers game. 5-1, the Braves. 1-5, Ripley.
And no, nobody's getting flowers. Y'all got 51 hung on you. Nobody's getting flowers. 51 points.
Maybe they should bring you flowers.
Maybe they should.
So bring it to us and we can give it to you since you won't be there.
Yeah. 51 points. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness is right.
Oh, my goodness is right.
Well, they do get a Ripley team that has really struggled this year. 1-5, just not the year for Ripley. Obviously, when we talk about Ripley, we talk about their defense, and it just hasn't been there.
It hasn't. And
not like it usually is, at least.
You know, I talked to a contact of mine over in Tippah County about what the deal is with this Ripley team. And just, you know, I've heard several things. Some internal strife within the program. A bunch of players, or a few players, were asked to leave the team before the season started. They're also really young. We knew this team was going to have some offensive woes with Ty Long leaving, the quarterback. Now he's playing baseball at Southern Miss. You know, and that was one of the big offensive weapons for this Ripley team. And now that he's not there, it's just tough. This is, for the first time in my life, and obviously I haven't been on this earth an incredibly long time, going on 24 years, but for the first time in 24 years, Ripley may be the third best team in Tippah County, which is wild to say.
You know, Tanner, Tisch and Ripley have a couple of common opponents, or they have a common opponent thus far in the season. Do you know who that one opponent is?
That would be Kossuth.
It would. Do you remember what the score of the Kossuth Tisch game was, right? 14 to 7.
Yeah, 14 to 7.
In overtime.
Yeah.
You know what the score of the Ripley-Kossuth game was?
14-0.
It was.
Yeah.
Does that give you any hope?
I mean, I think it tells me it's going to be it could be a close game on Friday. At this point, though, I just don't know how. And without being in the locker room, there's no way we can know this. I just don't know what the state of that Ripley locker room is right now, because this is, again, the worst they've been in a long, long time. And as a player, you kind of feel that kind of external pressure. And a lot of teams handle it one of two ways. They either fold underneath it, or they kind of stiffen their back and their neck because of it and go out and play the games that you can win with a little bit of extra edge. And make no mistake about it, this is a game that Ripley can win. And if you're in the position that they are, which is a down season, and you have to hope that Ripley is hungry for that extra win, to be able to boost that resume just a little bit, and maybe spoil Tish's hopes at hosting a first-round playoff matchup.
It sounds like you're talking for yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm saying if that's the Ripley approach. And the Tish approach has got to be, you got embarrassed last week, point blank on your home turf. You got to bounce back. You've got to bounce back. And you have a great chance to do so against a Ripley offense that has been non-existent.
Not only an offense that has been non-existent, but really a defense that has not been nearly what we have seen in years past. It's going to be tough for Ripley. I mean, especially against a team in Tish County who can score. This season, Tishomingo County has scored 201 total points, has only allowed 108. You take away that Amory game, they're sitting just over 50 points all season long.
Yeah.
And then for Ripley, well, it's kind of bad. 54 points all season long. They average 9 points a game, and they have allowed 149 in the season. So
they've played some stiff competition too.
They have, but
I mean, they played Choctaw County earlier this year, and Caleb Cunningham, who we just finished talking about. But then they've played some teams that are not great. Kossuth, not great this year.
Which is the one win.
Yeah, Boonville, not great this year.
Against teams that are not great, like you just said, the win against Kossuth, they only lost by 3 to Boonville.
And
that one 18-15.
Yeah, and that one was on a last-second field goal. That was anybody's game.
And you've got other losses to Charleston, like you said, Choctaw County, Columbus, and then last week against Shannon.
Yeah, so Shannon, you want that one to be closer, obviously.
That was a 40-0 bowl game.
You want that one to be a lot closer. And that's what makes me worry about kind of the state of this locker room. But you look at the Columbus game, you're going up and playing a 5A. Not a great 5A, but a 5A. And you look at the Charleston game, Charleston's always really good. Always got athletes all over the field. So I think this is a Ripley team that still has a little bit of hope to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to host, but I think they've got a little bit of hope to make the playoffs. They'll have to travel to someone really good in round one. But if you go out and you beat Tish, you're back in the conversation.
As we come to a close, will they beat Tish? Who's your pick for this week?
Honestly, I think Tishomingo County can score the ball enough. I think they've got a good enough offense to go out and get 21 points. I think the benchmark in this one is going to be 21. It's going to be a race to 21. Who can get to 21 first? That's going to be your winner of this ball game. I think because Tishomingo can throw it around the yard a little bit, has a decent run game attack, and they're not playing athletes like they did last week against Amory. That combined with the fact that I think Tishomingo County's got some older players they can rely on, some senior leadership. I think Tish wins this one by 1 or 2 scores. It's not going to be a blowout, but I see it being pretty low scoring, a 21-7, 21-14 type game.
That's exactly where I was going to. I was 21-14, 21-7, maybe 14-7. I'm thinking in that realm, but yeah, I think Tish takes this one, and fortunately for them, maybe not for you, they should advance to 6-1.
Yeah. I mean, and if they don't, what's the conversation around Tishomingo County like?
I think that's a conversation you can have with them if that happens.
I agree. I'll be back by next Wednesday.
You'll be back before that.
That I will be. But yeah, I've got Tish in this one, 21-14.
Yeah, I'll take 14-7 just for the sake of different scores, but I do have Tish County as well.
Yeah. So hope you guys have a fun time. I know we've had a fun time here in the studio. That's it for this edition of the Magnolia Fields podcast from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios. We'll catch you up next week right here